Hey folks, welcome to PlayBranson, the show where you get to know Branson's entertainers better. I'm your host, Chris Meyer, and today's episode is brought to you by iBranson.com. It's the place where you can plan your entire Branson vacation, lodging, shows, attractions, and more. Our guest today is Tim Hadler. Tim stars in the show Strait to Branson at Jerry Presley's God and Country Theater. He's been performing in Branson for over 2 decades, and this is his first time on the show. Now, when you think of the title Strait to Branson, you have to think of George Strait. George Strait has sold more than 120 million records worldwide, 70 million in the United States, making him one of the best-selling musical artists of all time. He holds the RIAA record for the most certified albums by an artist, with 33 different albums that are certified platinum or gold. And considering singles and albums, he has a total of 20 multi-platinum, 33 platinum, and 24 gold certifications. That's a lot of records sold, folks. Now, here's the deal. It's time to make your reservations for Ozark Mountain Christmas. It started, and it goes through the first part of January. What a great time to be in Branson. Lights, Christmas shows, shopping. Now, if you've never been to Branson at Christmas time, you've got to come. Now, are you looking for who's playing in Branson tonight? Well, you can now go to thevacationchannel.com and see Branson's show and attraction schedules. Click on the schedule button in the top right corner of their website. We'll be back with our guest in just a minute.
There are so many things to do in Branson. You need help planning and booking all your fun. You need iBranson.com. You can find everything Branson has to offer from your computer, tablet, or cell phone. You can even buy tickets online or talk to one of their friendly Branson travel specialists. There's no sales pitches, no delivery fees, no service fees, and no waiting. It's fast and easy. Find your fun at iBranson.com. Do it all online or call 877-ENTERTAIN. That's 877-368-3782. iBranson.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. And on today's episode of PlayBranson, I have Tim Hadler. Tim, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here, Chris.
Nice. It's good to have you. Your first time on the show.
Yes.
And you have a show, and we're going to talk about this show called Strait to Branson at God and Country Theater. So you've been performing for over 23 years now in Branson.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell people about your history. How did you get into this business and kind of the journey that you've been on?
Okay, well, from the very beginning, my first audience was cows. So I grew up on a farm. So if you know where Mount St. Helens is out in the state of Washington, I grew up about 12 miles from the mountain. And we grew up doing that. Always wanted to move to Nashville and sing on the Grand Ole Opry, and that came true. And after the Opry, there was a gentleman from Branson and asked me to come to Branson. And I said, I would love to. Where is it? I didn't know. And in fact, my wife and I raised our family here. It's been a great journey. Our baby just turned 21 not too long ago.
So you mentioned that you were on the Grand Ole Opry. Let's talk about how you got to that point.
Okay.
I know you said you started singing to cows, but there's a process in that between there to get to there. So tell people about that.
Right. Well, I moved to Nashville, and you meet people, you go out, and I started hanging out at the Opry, and basically they ask you, would you like to be a guest? And I was like, yeah, I would love that. And so that's how it happened. And then you just wait for your opportunity. I had to ask Vince Gill to please get sick so he would miss this day, and so I could get my spot on, because I kept getting canceled, and eventually got on. So because there's only a certain number of people that they can have, and he was at that time just a brand new member, and so it was like, could you please
well, I mean,
give
that's
me a little
pretty
space? And he said, yes, I will. Yeah.
I always tell people, I mean, there's a lot of I don't know, just like the Grand Ole Opry holds a lot of respect in the entertainment community.
It does.
And I did take a tour through there once, and it was pretty cool. It was very cool.
It's an amazing.
Yeah.
I was so nervous. The word is petrified, I guess you could say. Stonewall Jackson was introducing me, and he had just sang his hit, Don't Be Angry with Me, Darling. And I'm standing stage right. And so I'm beginning to feel something warm run down my leg, and I peed my pants. All right.
You heard it here first on PlayBranson.
True story. But anyway, I went out there. The band was already playing. Buddy Hyatt was my band leader, and nothing would come out of my mouth. And so finally he came up and said, Tim, you can sing whenever you want to. And I'm like, okay. As I snapped out of it, got through the song, got a standing ovation. So I think they felt sorry for me is what it was. But
So after that, you came to Branson. And so where were you at in Branson, and what were you doing?
Well, a gentleman was in Nashville and said, would you like to come? And we ignored him for a good year. And I don't mean ignore him. It's just, you're in your life, and it's like, and he said, he'd call every month and say, we really want to move you to Branson. And it was to the IMAX. There's a little theater there called the Remember When Theater at that time.
Okay.
And once I moved here, I suggested to Paul Bluto, I think it'd be great to call it the Little Opry Theater. And so we started doing a show. What was the name of that show? Keeping It Country. Or Country Tradition. Sorry about that. Yes, you're exactly right. Country Tradition. And anyway, the guy that moved me here said, I'm older. I'd really rather sit from the sidelines. And so the following year, we started what's called Hank Williams Revisited. And we had a good over 2-decade run.
That's a long time.
It was fun.
That's a long time. And so then you took a little bit of a break, right?
I've always been here at least every year, playing a few shows, but some years were 300 shows, some years were 5 or 10. But in this whole time, I've always been doing shows here at least once a year for the 23 years. But yes, I did move to Nashville, back to Nashville, went on the road, got a song that went to number 60 on the chart. Yay.
Most people can't do that. So, I mean, I haven't done that yet. So that's great.
But and that was my goal. I wanted to go ahead and get a couple hits, come back to Branson and continue the story of Branson, how you got the Mickey Gillies, the Mo Bandys, all the country artists, and wanted to continue that tradition.
But you also have started doing something else, right? You got this camp. Tell people about this camp, and I want to make sure I don't pronounce the name wrong. So I'll let you pronounce.
Well, it's called Gummy Camp. Gummy stands for Glad You Made It. Mm-hmm. And what had happened, I was in my show, and a gentleman came to me, and he's like, I got these lyrics, or they're something I would love to have a love story. A song put to these words. It was him and his wife's story. They had been married at that time, I think 63 years or something in there. They ended up being married 71 years total. But he was bugging me every week. And I say bugging me because it was like, people give you songs and everything. And long story short, we went on to write 28 songs. And it was a great healing process for him. He was a World War II vet. He was a person who suffered from post-traumatic stress, which is PTSD, and he blamed himself for what had happened. And a lot of those songs were Bible-based, but one specifically was not only Bible-based, but also based towards PTSD, people suffering from that. And it was his story. And so it was an awesome experience. And so that's one thing that's happened over the years. That's helped people at the camp is the writing. It's the healing retreat that it's been for those years has been amazing to watch a veteran go from living on the street to functioning. Yeah,
and I think that that's part of the culture of Branson, of honoring our veterans. And so I know you've been very involved in that organization out there and doing a lot for them. And so I know on behalf of the veterans, they would say thank you, and I would say thank you for doing that.
I love our veterans, and, without them, we wouldn't have Branson, which is life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. That's what we're all doing. Whether you're in the audience or you're on stage, that's what we're doing, and they've protected that.
So you're at Little Opry for a while. You're now back. Is this your first season back, like the whole season, or was that a year or two ago? Or
let's see. I want to say... yeah, this is really my first season back. It's been a while. I was trying to remember what years that I've done 5 and 10 shows, but But this year's been, we've been doing 4 shows a week.
Yeah, but you've shifted now. So you've gone from Hank Williams to now George Strait. And so we're going to talk about that here, in folks, in just a minute. So hang tight. We'll be right back with more with Tim Hadler.
Going to Branson for some relaxation and fun? You've got to stay with Branson's award-winning hotel family, Meyer Hotels. Meyer Hotels features 4 hotels in Branson with the best locations for your trip. Choose from brands you know and trust, like the Holiday Inn Express on Green Mountain Drive, the Best Western Centerpoint Inn, Comfort Inn at Thousand Hills, and the Comfort Inn and Suites. Enjoy refreshing indoor pools and hot tubs. Do you like free? How about a free hot breakfast each morning? Free vacation planning services, and of course, smiles are always free. Want even more value? Go to MeyerHospitality.com and join our e-club to save 15% off your next stay and check out incredible deals with our vacation packages. Call 1-877-FUN-STAY to book Branson's award-winning hotels or visit MeyerHospitality.com. It's your safe choice for award-winning lodging in Branson. MeyerHospitality.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking to Tim Hadler. And Tim, you have a show over at Jerry Presley's God and Country Theater. First year for it. It's Strait to Branson.
That's right.
And tell people, maybe someone's never heard of you before. Maybe they haven't seen the show. They haven't seen your history here. But tell people what you're doing over there.
Okay, yeah. If you like country music, if you like George Strait, that's what we're doing. A lot of steel guitar, a lot of fiddle. Speaking of steel guitar, Bob Tuttle is, he was in a movie with John Travolta, which was kind of cool. It was back in '79. You probably remember Urban Cowboy, but he played steel guitar with Mickey Gilley at that time and actually played for him for 5 years. And so there's a lot of steel guitar, a lot of fiddle, and all George Strait. I do a couple of my songs, but I've just very enjoyed the little intimate theater at God and Country. So we run on Mondays and Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
So if somebody has liked George Strait's music, but maybe they haven't seen him, this would be a good opportunity to really have a show where it's all his music.
Yes, and I do it kind of unique. As I did Hank Williams, I do George Strait in the first person. So when you come to the show, I'm George, and I tell my story. It's not as in-depth as Hank because, it's not so many roller coasters as Hank had, but it is his story. So.
I think George is an interesting guy because he really just gets up and sings. Mm-hmm. He's not real, what I'd call theatrical, like a Garth Brooks.
Right.
But he can pack a stadium out.
Right. And earlier this year, College Station, he had 110,000. Everybody's seen that. And, it's just like, wow, nobody's ever done that. And I always tease people and tell them it's his stage show. That's what he did it, because he doesn't have a stage show. I mean, basically, he sings the songs and he waves, says, thanks for coming. I'll see you next time. And so they come for the songs. And so we have a little bit more interaction than that. But it is the songs that sell George, obviously.
Yeah. Now, when you're putting a show together and George has so many songs, I think he's got, over 30 some albums.
Right.
How do you pick which songs that you're going to have in the show?
Well, first, I like the ones I can deliver. Because some of them, they have a twist that maybe memorizing words for me come easy sometimes not as easy. And then it depends on the season. So if we're around a patriotic time or whatever, we're around Mother's Day or that kind of thing. And by the way, my mother's watching the taping right now, so I'm excited.
I heard that's exciting.
Yeah. So it's she just flew in actually, and she flew in from where I grew up, was about 12 miles from Mount St. Helens. I mentioned that. And she just flew in today. And so it's kind of nice having her here.
Now, were you there I'm going to side note here, were you there when the thing blew up?
Yes, we were going to church.
Yeah.
And we got to church and the preacher was like, he was shaking, and I think we'll go ahead and just dismiss everybody, do a quick prayer, and walked outside, and it was starting to rain ash at that time. And it was a scary time. No doubt we lost our cabin. It was up there by Harry Truman, the man who wouldn't leave the mountain. And but it was my Aunt Rose's cabin, and just where we spent Christmas and Thanksgiving, and it was a joy to have the memories. So
I remember as a kid, someone gave me a little I don't know, for lack of a better word, a little dish with some ash in it. I don't know what happened to it, but that was a big deal back in the day.
Yeah, it was something.
So tell people again what days you're doing and what times.
Yes, the show starts in April and it runs through the middle of December. You can go on to timhadler.com, which is TIMHADLER.com, and you can see our whole schedule there. But basically, we run Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and we alternate. So Mondays are 2 in the afternoon, Tuesdays are 8, Wednesdays at 2, Thursdays at 8, and which kind of gives people an option if you're an afternoon person or an evening. So
So if you were to give some advice to somebody that's out there, maybe thinking about they're a young entertainer and they're thinking, man, I want to come to Branson and entertain, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would say if it's what you really want to do, pursue that dream. I would go to all the shows that you can go to and just see how patriotic it is. I mean, that's what I love. Branson's God, family, and country. It's pretty awesome. And if they can get that vibe, and so we can carry on that tradition of staying true to that, I think that's what I advise them to do.
I love what you just said, God, family, and country. And I went to 5 shows in just a matter of a few days. And at every one of those shows, in some form or fashion, they recognized the veterans.
Awesome.
And so that, I'm like, you're not going to see that in New York City. You're not going to see that in Las Vegas. And that's part of our culture. And that's really kind of what makes us different is like our values and, how we honor those people. I always say we were patriotic in Branson before it was cool after 9/11 for a while. Everybody was patriotic when that happened, but like we're honoring veterans before then.
Yeah, and I love what I call the Branson bubble. I love the bubble, and people will enter our bubble and want to take that back home, and so I do think we're very good for, yeah.
Okay, folks, here's the deal. If you love George Strait music, maybe you don't even know who George Strait is, and you just want some good country music, then go check out Tim Hadler over at Jerry Presley's God and Country Theater. Now, if you're on the Strip, and you're like, where is that at on the Strip? I'll tell you where. If you go and you pass Dolly Stampede on the right, you're going to come up the road, and a little bit on the left-hand side, you're going to see the Apple Tree Mall and Applebee's, and it is just past that. Actually used to be an old movie theater.
It did, yeah.
And now they've converted that into what, 2 or 3 theaters? Is it two theaters? And shows going on there really all the time now. So
it's awesome.
Yeah. So folks, go see Tim Hadler over at Strait to Branson, and we'll be back in just a second to wrap the show up.
There are so many things to do in Branson. You need help planning and booking all your fun. You need iBranson.com. You can find everything Branson has to offer from your computer, tablet, or cell phone. You can even buy tickets online or talk to one of their friendly Branson travel specialists. There's no sales pitches, no delivery fees, no service fees, and no waiting. It's fast and easy. Find your fun at iBranson.com. Do it all online or call 877-ENTERTAIN. That's 877-368-3782. iBranson.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Well, we've been talking to Tim Hadler with Strait to Branson. It's located over at the Jerry Presley's God and Country Theater at 1840 West 76 Country Boulevard. Now that's right next to the Apple Tree Mall and Applebee's. He plays there on Monday and Wednesdays at 2 p.m. and Tuesday and Thursdays at 8 p.m. through December 12th. So you got just a little bit of time to see Tim this year. Now, if you need help planning your Branson vacation, be sure to visit iBranson.com or call 1-877-ENTERTAIN. You can find the latest show schedules, attractions, and lodging options on iBranson.com. And there's still time to get here before the end of the season. Now, you can also find all of our PlayBranson episodes on social media like Facebook or YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlayBranson. And you can also find us on thevacationchannel.com. Support our local musicians and entertainers, so go see some live music this week. Well, that's it for today. We'll see you here next week on Play Branson.